below the 1x, I do get that shade of darkness. I think this is perfect. I'm gonna roll with this one. Even though the space is very well lit, I think we should get enough of a shade there. So, down to the subject at hand. We've all been, I think you have been in this situation where you run into some old folk, people from the old world, and they start complaining to you how we've lost our way and we no longer have our culture. Our culture has been eroded, and it strikes you as odd because for all you know, everything is way better than it used to be. I mean, you don't know what you don't know, obviously, but based on your perspective, everything should have improved. The problem with eroded culture is that there are things which you had figured out or your forebearers had figured out which fall to the wayside because there is no transitional or there is no equivalent for the new thing that you're adopting. So you'd be adopting new things, and some of them maybe not necessarily won't necessarily translate to your livelihood or to some of what you go through in life based on who you are. There are things that you've inherited, or basically you are based on whom you've inherited from. So based on your heritage, there are these attributes that you've inherited, and given the culture that was accompanied with the heritage, the culture was supposed to handle this heritage. So if you adopt a new culture, you are kind of leaving something hanging. And this comes to light in certain instances like rite of passage or rite of initiation, where you used to do this thing traditionally. Maybe you do it at home in such and such a fashion. There's this. There would be a bit of a gathering, and there would be a bit of an education. Informal, it would seem like this would have been unnecessary because you have formal education. But there are things that they would teach you during the rite of passage. They would basically allow you to become an adult and allow you to experience life based on who you are becoming and go through that. But when you adopt this other culture, this foreign culture, the foreign culture doesn't have that part figured out. So what you have is you have a bit of a gap. You have grown physically, but your mental state is still languishing. So this happens when you have a bit of a cross. So you'd find that maybe you don't get to be a retard per se, but what you do get is you do not develop in certain mental faculties. Essentially, you have grown up, but you've not allowed yourself to become an adult in your mind. In your mind, you are thinking of other things which do not exactly align with who you're supposed to be becoming. So you end up with a problem. You end up with mental blocks. If you've ever had those, there are these mental blocks that occur if you've been left to hang. So that's why that happened, and you don't really get to know what that's about until you're actually of age, and this is a little late, but still you still won't go back to your heritage to see what's supposed to be done to sort this out. You still try to seek out the new paradigm to try and sort that issue, but the new paradigm doesn't cover this, so you just end up a miserable human out of no fault of your own, just lack of information. You didn't know that you needed this other thing because you thought modernism is actually good for you, and it fails you miserably. So it's important to touch base and figure out exactly where you're from and what that's about, so that you don't leave anything on the table. Yeah, that's about it. I think this is a short one. I don't really like the blaring light in the eye.